I think that the Oklahoma City Thunder have the greatest GM of all time. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but let's break it down. So the NBA season is officially over, and I think we all know that Shea is going to get the MVP, and that actually brings up a topic that's actually kind of crazy. Since the 1976 ABA-NBA merger, the Thunder would be fourth all time in unique MVP winners. Well, technically. So first of all time, the Lakers have 4, which is Kareem 3 times. They have Magic, who won 3 times. Then they have Shaq, who won in 2000. And lastly, they have Kobe, of course, who won in 2008. Next on the list is the 76ers, who also have 4. They have Dr. J, who won in 1981. Moses Malone, who won in 1983. And Allen Iverson, of course, who won in 2001. One of my GOATs. And Joel Embiid, who won in 2023. Next on the list, we have the Rockets. We have Moses Malone, who won in 79 and 82. We have Hakeem the Dream, who won in 1994. And of course, we have James Harden, who won in 2018. Some other teams to mention that you may think of when you think of unique MVP winners. Again, this is unique MVP winners, not just the most MVPs. We have the Bulls, who have MJ, of course, who won 5 MVPs. And then secondly, we have Derrick Rose, who won 1 MVP in 2011. Another team that people may think of are the San Antonio Spurs, who have David Robinson, who won in 1995. And they have Tim Duncan, who won in 2002 and 2003. Another team who has a lot of MVPs, but not a lot of unique winners, is the Milwaukee Bucks. They have Kareem, who won in 1971, 72, and 74. And then, of course, Giannis, who has 2 MVPs, 1 in 2019 and 1 in 2020. Another team that you probably would think of when you think of winning, especially MVPs and all that, is the Celtics. But since the merger, they only have 1 unique winner, which is Larry Bird, and he has 3. And if you want to get even more specific, for the last 10 to 15 years, they are the only team with unique winners, and they have 3 unique winners in the last 10 to 15 years. That's crazy. So like I said, the Thunder might have the greatest GM of all time. Sam Presti, if you don't know, he took over in 2007, which is the year that he drafted Kevin Durant. And when he took over as a GM, he was only 29 years old, which is how old I am right now. So of course, the MVPs that he selected, if you want to say, is Kevin Durant, James Harden, then Russell Westbrook, and this year, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander this year. And I know, yes, technically he didn't draft Shea, but as a GM, you got to recognize talent early. You got to make trades if needed. He traded for Shea extremely early. That's how Paul George got to the Clippers. And they got Shea. I mean, at this point, it's kind of for a steal. At the time, it was like, oh, maybe, this might work. The Clippers might win a championship with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So this means that he really selected or drafted, however you want to look at it, 4 different MVPs since he took over in 2007, which is pretty wild. I know technically Harden didn't win it for the Thunder, but if you ask me, he selected Harden. He recognized the talent. I guess it was kind of his bad for not keeping Harden, but I think Harden also wanted the opportunity to grow. Maybe he couldn't grow if he stayed on the Thunder, but in the long run, I think he selected 4 MVP winners. So it's pretty crazy if you think about it. And again, what they traded to get Shea is actually pretty good haul at the time, at least. Paul George was playing at an MVP level. I believe he finished 4th that year in MVP voting. And of course, they also traded some draft picks as well. With those picks, the Thunder, of course, they had Shea in that trade, but they also were able to draft some players like Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort, who was actually undrafted, so it wasn't drafted, but again, recognizing talent, selecting talent when you see it, and Jalen Williams, their second all-star on the team. But they also have some other picks and trades, of course, that are very key and notable, and will assist, hopefully, in the Thunder making a long run. Guess we'll see this year as the playoffs continue. Some other notable draft picks that they made in the past, again, like I mentioned, James Harden was drafted, didn't technically win on the Thunder, of course, but he did select the talent. Another player that had a long career, successful, won multiple championships on different teams, Serge Ibaka. I'm sure you guys remember him. Another great player that he drafted that panned out very well was second overall pick, Hasheem Thabeet. And of course, we can't forget about him, Jeremy Lamb. 2K15 Jeremy Lamb was one of the greatest players ever. That is, of course, if you play NBA 2K. But on a serious note, really, if you look at it, Sam Presti has been one of the godfathers of our era, really, of basketball when it comes to draft picks, trades, cap. He really knows how to see talent early, select it. He moves on from people if he thinks that they're not a good fit anymore for the team. He retains good players on decent contracts. The team they have right now is excellent. I think they could still make more moves in the future if they wanted to get even better. So depending on how these playoffs go, they may need to make some big changes. They may need to make some small tweaks. And I definitely believe in Sam Presti to do those things. Some other teams of the modern era that I would say are kind of on the same level as the Thunder are the Golden State Warriors, of course, drafting Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. The trio was excellent for over a decade. a great team, but the GM of the Warriors was also able to make some good trades at key moments, as well as signing some free agents that some didn't work out, but the idea was kind of there. People like DeMarcus Cousins, I think that was a great selection at the time. He was cheap, he came off injury, but he was playing really well for them. But then again, he got hurt again, but it was a good pick at the time. Of course, the Kevin Durant signing was huge. That's gonna go down in history forever as one of the biggest, craziest signings ever to a team that was 73-9, lost in the championship, and then signed a top 3 player in the league at the time, probably top 2. So yeah, that was a great selection. Again, it's kind of, I don't want to say easy, but if you're a GM and Kevin Durant's like, hey, I want to sign with you guys, I mean, you can't say no. But again, the draft picks that he made were excellent, and he was able to keep those players for a long time, get them paid, and they won 4 championships. So did a great job. And that GM, of course, is Bob Myers, who no longer is a GM for the Warriors, but was key in their 4 victories in the championship rounds. Another team who I think is also on this level are the Boston Celtics. Again, great draft picks that have panned out very well. Of course, they won the championship last year. But really, this last 2 to 3 years have been insane for the Celtics. They have such a stacked roster. Their bench isn't as deep, but they're starting 5 to 6 to 7 players are insanely good. They could play on any team as starters. I mean, when you can bring Derek White in, Drew Holiday in, and Porzingis to already come in with your young draft picks, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. That is crazy moves. I don't know how they finessed those moves, but ever since Brad Stevens has taken over, he's done a fantastic job. But before him, I do also think that Danny Ainge was a key piece in their success as a team. A lot of other teams that you may think of that are really good at GM and know how to make moves and signings and draft picks and all that stuff. Again, I don't want to say that's luck, but they kind of just were bad and then got to draft really high, or a player wanted to sign for that specific team just because of location or cap space, whatever reason. I guess the GM does need to make the cap space, so that does factor in. But again, those teams didn't really have great success. I think to be a good GM, your team does need to have success at some point. You can't just make good picks, get good players, and think that you're going to be at the top of this list. Like the 76ers, they had multiple high picks. Some panned out, kinda. Some didn't. A lot didn't. Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons, Embiid, I guess panned out. He did win an MVP, but I mean, the signs were there that he was injured early on in his career. He missed the first 2 years, I believe, of his career already with injury, and then he had a great run of probably like 8 years, dominant player, but now I think that's kind of over. So again, that kind of just lucked into getting a high draft pick, selecting Joel Embiid. I think that's kind of dead. Another team that really just had high draft picks, wasn't the greatest challenge to really get these players, are the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have Anthony Edwards, they got Karl-Anthony Towns, they had some other key draft picks that were pretty good draft picks, but again, it was kind of just a team that was really bad. No one wanted to sign there, so they never really had a chance to get in the playoffs or anything, to not be in the lottery. And when you're in the lottery pretty consistently, you get a lot of cracks at it. So I mean, Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns. Again, Karl-Anthony Towns, good player, wouldn't say great. Anthony Edwards, so far, so great, but we'll see where he takes Timberwolves this year and in the future. I also want to shout out some teams that are kind of not at the top, but they're just sneaky good at making draft picks. One team that you may not think of is actually the Utah Jazz. They drafted Donovan Mitchell at pick 13, which yes, is in the lottery, but it's a pretty low draft pick for such a good player. Again, he's not a great player, but he is very, very good. And so far, the Cavs are, first in the East right now. So we'll see how they do in the playoffs as well. And another draft pick they made that was late in the first round, Rudy Gobert. Yes, Rudy Gobert is the laughingstock of the league, but I mean, dude has 4 defensive players of the year. He's always in the running. He had one of his best games the other day, 35 points. I mean, that's tied his career high. But yeah, I mean, he's a late first round draft pick, similar to Draymond Green. That's a pretty good pick. I mean, if you get 4 defensive players of the year, of course, he's a Hall of Famer. You can't deny it. And yeah, he's had a lot of success too. So those are just some sneaky draft picks that they made. They also have some on the horizon, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to see how those players pan out. And another team that's sneaky good at draft picks, I don't really know if you guys know or remember, but Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, not #1 overall picks or anything like that. Jamal Murray was a 7th overall pick, which again, that is in the lottery. That is pretty high, but he's a pretty good player, never an all-star, but in the clutch, he's crazy good. They recognize it and they know how to put pieces around them. So that's another good GM. I actually don't even know who the GM of the Nuggets is. Oh wait, Yeah, I do. He just got fired along with the coach, Michael Malone. Previous GM is actually who drafted Nikola Jokic. And he drafted him actually 1 year after Yusuf Nurkic. So is he a good GM? I don't know. He drafted Jokic in the second round, late in the second round. But Jokic is the greatest second round pick already of all time. So, and he has a great chance of being top 10 player of all time. So I think that's kind of lucky. The team was playing Jokic over the Joker, which is just crazy to me. I do vividly remember watching, and Jokic would come in the game as a young player behind Nurkic, and I was like, this dude's way better. Like, why are they not going? Anyway, so yeah, man, just wanted to say that I think Sam Presti may be the greatest GM of all time. He's just because he's in a small market, making picks and moves and money and this and that. That's not easy to do in a place like Oklahoma. It's tough to get free agents there. It's tough to make trades. And he's just been dominating it. They have so many draft picks for the future. They have cap. They can make some trades, make some moves. They can kind of do whatever they want right now. Their team's looking great. They have an MVP. They have 4 unique MVP winners. Again, it's technically 3 with KD, Westbrook, and now Shea. But to me, I would also count James Harden in that group. And yeah, he's done all of that since 2007, since being 29 years old, which is that's how old I am now. So I got a lot of work to do. But yeah, shout out to Sam Presti. Some other people may think of other GMs such as Pat Riley, Krause, who of course was Michael Jordan's GM. But again, I mean, I feel like they were just kind of selecting the top players. They had high picks. Of course, they made moves and signings to get good players to get a lot of championships, but working when you're at such a disadvantage in small markets, I think that's really tough to do. And Sam Presti's been doing it for a long time. He's been dominating as a great GM. They get the championship, and I think that will really push the narrative that he may be one of the greatest GMs of all time, definitely of our generation. So if you guys stay to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see any other videos like this, if you kind of like this new format, let me know. Also wanted to shout out this sick hockey hoodie that I'm wearing. So it's a Heat styled hoodie, but it's a hockey hoodie. So it's pretty cool. And of course, got my favorite player of all time, Dwayne Wade, on it. Let me know if you want to know where I got this. Maybe I can shout him out. All right, guys. Peace.
Real bees, when I walk up, get a drink. All the homies look at me, they be like, ooh, that sweater clean. Yeah, pretty cougar bitch, I'm in here, and what's up? Yeah, I see 2 dogs with some big old. It's a joke, laugh, it's a joke.